Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at this very important action. You'll notice on your screen that there are slides up that explain how you can both follow and share the work of New Jersey Together on social media. And if you would like to take a moment before we begin to stream this action either on your Facebook page or Twitter or YouTube page or all of the above, you're welcome to do so. And we expect to begin momentarily. I'd invite all of our panelists, except for Reverend Rogers, who will be introducing our action this evening, to both mute yourselves and stop your screen sharing. Once again, I'd like to welcome everybody this evening to this very important action of New Jersey Together. You'll see on the page in front of you all of the ways that you can access information about the work of New Jersey Together. You're also welcome, if you would like to at this time, to share this action by streaming it on your face page, on Twitter or YouTube. And we will be beginning now. And I would invite all of the panelists to end their video, to stop their video and to mute. And I'd like to welcome Reverend Roberts.
Good evening, everyone. And I am Robert Rogers, the pastor of the Church of God in Christ in Morristown, New Jersey. I'm also a leader with New Jersey Together in the Morris County local chapter. We thank you all for coming and being with us tonight, and we're just so glad you're here. So please take time to introduce yourself in the chat with your name and where you're from. And there's also a link to the agenda for tonight's meeting that you can pull up and have on your computer. Now I'm going to give you back to Reverend Laurie.
As Reverend Rogers noted, my name is Reverend Laurie Worm. I am a member of Jersey City Together, which along with Morris County Together make up New Jersey Together. And if this is your first time participating in an action held by New Jersey Together, we are very glad to have you this evening. Welcome. Know too that it's part of our discipline as an organizing group to begin on time and to start on time. And since we have a lot of business to get through this evening, we will get started. For those of you who are new to New Jersey Together, let me say that we are a nonpartisan, broad-based organization of 51 dues-paying member institutions in New Jersey. And those institutions comprise churches, synagogues, mosques, nonprofit organization, and others. And our goal as an organization is to build power by organizing people and organizing money. And we need to move the issues that matter to our people forward and to hold our elected officials accountable at all levels. And that is what the work of New Jersey Together is. And also you should know that New Jersey Together is a part of the Industrial Areas Foundation, which is the nation's oldest and largest organizing network, with organizations just like New Jersey Together around the country and also around the world. And now I will hand us back over to Reverend Rogers.
We are here tonight because our state is crying out for change. Yes, we've had the COVID-19 pandemic since March for the past 6 months, which has taken the lives of over 14,000 New Jersey residents. But tonight we will acknowledge that our state has had a pandemic of racial inequity, criminal injustice, and structural racism for years and years. So this trifecta of racial inequity, criminal injustice, and structural racism has taken away more lives, hopes, dreams, and futures than the COVID-19 pandemic. So the well-being of our New Jersey residents and our state as a whole is at a critical juncture. So now is the time that we must act, and now is the set time when we must come together across the private, nonprofit, and public sectors to bring about the changes that are necessary. We cannot wait for some future time, because now is such a critical time, because the lives of our families, neighbors, friends, congregations, nonprofits, and fellow citizens are at stake right now. So we see the changes that are necessary because they are staring us in the face. By your presence here tonight, we believe that we are willing and able to be the instruments of change that New Jersey needs. So let us start our meeting tonight by inviting Reverend Bolivar Flores from the New Jersey Coalition of Latino Pastors and Ministers to provide us with an opening prayer.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's pray, brothers and sisters. We gather this evening as a justice maker of many faiths, united by our sharing faith in the idea of justice, democracy, community, and the common good and the love of our neighbors. We pray for continued strength and courage to stand up and speak out against injustice, discrimination, and oppression, to reclaim in this day and time the mantle of brave women and men that through the ages have spoken truth to powers, and call those with power and privilege to honor, respect, protect, and care for the less of those among us. The poor, the homeless, the hungry, the sick, the broken, the forgiven, the strangers in our state. Let's say amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend Flores. As we begin our action this evening, we want to offer some time to Senator Robert Menendez. Thank you so much, Senator Menendez, for joining us this evening. Senator Menendez is one of the most important leaders in the state of New Jersey, and I'd invite him to join us on video. Good evening, Senator. Thank you so much for being with us. I want to say in advance that Senator Menendez is not going to be able to stay with us for the entire action. And we want to make sure that we use this time well. We know that the critical moving issues that we're going to be raising tonight need to be brought forward by developing a close working relationship with you, Senator. And as we shared with your staff, New Jersey Together's leadership wants to be able to meet with you virtually in the coming weeks about the priorities that we're raising at this action, to discuss how we can work together to move them forward. And once we've done that, we would hope to work with you to convene the rest of the New Jersey congregational delegation for a similar briefing and conversation about our agenda. So my question for you this evening is if you'll be willing to take these steps with us.
Well, thank you very much. The answer simply is yes.
Thank you so much, Senator. And I invite you I just wanted to step in and say to keep time, I'm very excited to hear what you have to share with us, but we're going to keep to about 3 minutes if you could. Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, let me thank you and New Jersey Together for inviting me to say a few words today. I hope that someday soon we can come together in person instead of in front of our computer screens. I appreciate all the work that you are all doing to promote sensible criminal justice reform, to protect affordable housing, to expand testing for COVID-19 here in our state. Indeed, many of the issues that you champion at the state and local levels are the ones that I fight for each and every day in the United States Senate. This has been a challenging time for everyone. We're facing the worst pandemic in 100 years and a crippling economic crisis. Many of you know that one of the more than 15,000 New Jerseyans who have been lost to COVID-19, and some of you have even fought this virus firsthand. Thanks to strong leadership and shared sacrifices, New Jersey is in a much better place today, but that progress comes at a price. Businesses have closed, many have opened at reduced capacity, unemployment remains high, our economy has taken a hit. And so long as COVID-19 spreads across the country, the threat to our communities remains. My colleagues and I took the crisis seriously from the start, even with soaring costs jeopardizing millions of public sector jobs and essential services we all depend upon. That's why I'm fighting in the Senate to pass a $500 billion SMART fund to help states, cities, towns, and counties stabilize their economies and continue providing essential services. Likewise, we have to help families who need it the most. And sadly and predictably, our minority communities have once again been the hardest hit. We're facing a growing housing crisis here in New Jersey. A recent census survey found that nearly 30% of New Jersey residents either missed their July housing payment or said they were unsure that they could make their August payments. And New Jersey now leads the country in FHA mortgage delinquency payments. Yet it has been 1 month since our Senate Republican majority failed to renew enhanced unemployment benefits and let protections for eviction expire. That's right. Amid the worst pandemic in 100 years, a time when we need families to take refuge in their homes, the president and his allies have left millions on the edge of homelessness. That's why my Democratic colleagues are fighting for additional assistance to families, whether they rent or own a home. We're calling for $100 billion to renters, particularly low-income renters, and $75 billion for homeowners. And I've introduced legislation to provide over $500 million in housing counseling that's proven to help families avoid foreclosure and keep their homes. Of course,
Senator Menendez, I'm very sorry to ask you, we're trying to keep the time, but if you could finish your remarks, I'm sorry to have to cut you off.
No problem, no problem. So between those housing issues and the Justice and Policing Act, which I'm pleased to co-sponsor with my friends Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, I think these are critical times for us to be able to ensure that we can get through this pandemic and reach a brighter day tomorrow. And we look forward to continuing to work with you and with others in terms of seeking the justice that we deserve, both in terms of racial profiling on police questions, as well as the housing and economic questions that affect our.
Thank you so much, sir. I'd like to once again turn our meeting over to Reverend Rogers.
Thank you, Senator Menendez, for your work and your leadership. We appreciate your time and commitment to meet and work with us on our priorities. We look forward to strengthening our relationship and to our next steps together. I will now hand the reins over to Reverend Allison Miller.
Well, what a beginning already tonight. We have 3 of the 5 most powerful elected leaders in the state of New Jersey on with us. And we hope that all 3 will pledge to work with us on the issues that you will hear about tonight. And I'm so glad to hear Senator Menendez bring some of them up already. Good evening and welcome to everyone joining just now. I am the Reverend Allison Miller, Senior Minister of the Morristown Unitarian Fellowship and part of the core organizing team of Morris Area Together. As we gather this evening, we are proud to announce that more than 2,200 people registered to participate tonight, not all on individual devices. Some of you are watching by yourselves, and I know that others of you are watching in groups of 4 or 5 people. We're going to look at a slide with a New Jersey map on it, should be coming up any minute, sharing some of who is on the call with us tonight. Those 2,200 people are from more than 262 religious congregations and nonprofits in every county in our state. And in 11 of those counties, the most population dense in the state, we have a critical mass of people and institutions. In each of those 11 counties, at least 50 people are present from 10 diverse congregations or nonprofits. And we see that we have a number of congregations here with us tonight that actually have 50 plus or 30 plus people. We are also joined by some special guests. We'll see on our next slides. We have statewide partners that we want to lift up, like the Episcopal Diocese of New Jersey and the New Jersey Coalition of Latino Pastors and Ministers, who have both been critical to making tonight happen. And I see the slide is up right now with the congregations that have more than 50 in attendance. Thank you. We also have bishops and denominational leaders from all across the state, allies from our sister organizations across the country in the Industrial Areas Foundation. And here we have, it really shows the bandwidth we have across the state of people putting their faith into action. And finally, the last slide, you'll see we have elected and public officials and nonprofit leaders who are here with us tonight. It is good to be here together, even virtually, but tonight is just a beginning. At the heart of our work and at the heart of our action tonight is the importance of power. And I want to thank our honored guests listed here for being with us. In New Jersey and around the country, good policy doesn't just happen. And you can take the slide down. I want you to take this in. If we want to create justice in our state, if we want to address issues of racial equity and criminal justice in New Jersey, we are going to need more than just an action like this. We are going to need power, organized people, and organized money. We're going to need to build relationships with and then hold accountable our elected and appointed officials all across the state. We're going to need to grow our numbers, our dues-paying members, and our organization, New Jersey Together. At the end of the night, we're going to ask you what you're willing to do to help make that real. Because community organizing isn't just a spectator sport. And Because of community organizing, we are already gaining some wins in our state. We are going to need to act together to force justice to happen. As Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. And tonight we are here to start that work together, to put forward what we know is right, what must come to be, and then to see it through together. I'm going to hand it over now to the Reverend Dr. Willard Ashley to share just what we are up against as a state and the consequences of doing nothing.
Thank you, Reverend Miller. For some reason, the video's not starting, but I'm going to start my video. Here we go. Thank you, Reverend Miller. As I watch the events and the horrors around the country, I think about what it means for us, for our action tonight, for our work together. My family is proud of our cousin, Los Angeles Clippers coach Glenn Doc Rivers, and we're humbled that Major League Baseball honored another cousin, Jackie Robinson. Neither cousin kept quiet about systemic racism, nor can we. The stakes are too high for us to be polite and to stand on ceremony. We can ill afford to settle for symbolic actions by politicians, yielding minor change in policies and practices. We need to speak truth and demand action to address the brutal inequities and injustices in our state. So let us begin by being crystal clear about the state we live in and the power we're up against. New Jersey is far from the model of equity and inclusion we like to tell ourselves. New Jersey consistently ranks as one of the most unjust states across countless measures. Behind the numbers we will lay out tonight are real people and real pain. The laws and structures of our state have squeezed the life and wealth out of people for decades. We have failed to be our brothers and sisters' keepers. New Jersey's state prisons have the most lopsided racial disparities in the country. We're number one, not Alabama, not Mississippi. New Jersey is number one in racial disparities in state prisons. Black people in New Jersey are 12 times more likely than white people to be in state prison. We rank up there with Minnesota and Wisconsin, states where police cold-bloodedly murdered George Floyd and 7 times shot Jacob Blake in the back in front of his children, paralyzing him. New Jersey wealth disparities are among the most extreme in the United States of America. White wealth in New Jersey, wait for this, is about 50 times that of Black and Latino wealth. I didn't misspeak, 50 times. New Jersey suspends hundreds of thousands of driver's licenses every year, mostly for failure to pay and failure to appear. Add insult to injury, the state collects $100 million in surcharge fees from people who do not have money. 100 million. We're punishing people for being poor and making them even poorer. There are other things we could talk about if we had the time. Our schools are some of the most segregated in the United States of America. We have the highest death rates from COVID-19 for people in prison. These numbers, my brothers and my sisters, are not accidental. These injustices did not just happen. New Jersey's racial disparities have been an unsolved crime scene for decades. Roll out the yellow police tape and put it all around New Jersey. The only way this pattern stops, the only way it has ever stopped, is when organized people and organized money, often working with allies and elected leaders, push back and force change. That's what tonight is all about. It is what New Jersey Together is all about. We cannot just politely ask anymore. Let me illuminate what people with power can do. Chromium, everyone knew was causing cancer. Chromium was killing people who look like me and hard working class people across New Jersey. Mayor Glenn Cunningham, the first Black mayor of Jersey City, said, "We played on green and yellow mountains as kids. We saw green slime. We had no idea it was toxic." These stories did not matter to governors, Democrat or Republican, mayors, bureaucrats on both sides of the aisle. Corporations tried to stop us. They had other interests. Together with Father Jeff Curtis, Myrtle Smith, Diane Maxson, and Ellen Wright, we spent more than 30 years fighting to get rid of this deadly, toxic waste. It did not matter, Democrat or Republican, Black, white, Latinx, or Asian. The result was the same. Promises made, promises quickly broken. It did not matter that a church member died from stomach cancer. Why, you ask? Because he grew vegetables in his backyard. And he did not know that the backyard was filled with cancer-causing chromium. The horrors were bad and brazen. One Department of Environmental Protection, DEP director, who never made good on his promise, made this corrupt move. Once out of office, he purchased for $1, the very land he was supposed to clean up while director of DEP. We reported it to the press, and as a result, he was forced to pay $1 million for the land. Standing in the back of City Hall chambers, I offered for ICO, a not-for-profit, to buy the land back from him for affordable housing. He said to me, "Go to hell." As we neared the end of a legal fight to force a Fortune 50 company to clean up a site in Jersey City, the company's legal counsel offered our organization $50 million to walk away from our pursuits. We did not take the offer. Let me be very clear. We did not take the offer, not one penny. And 3 days later, I can almost do a holy dance. 3 days later, the judge ruled in our favor and ordered a $500 million cleanup. If I was in church, we'd be doing shouting, saying hallelujah. It was the largest legal victory against environmental racism in the United States at that time. It took power, consistent pressure, and every tool in our arsenal to win more than $1 billion to clean up 200 acres of land in Jersey City. We had to build our base, find allies, sometimes in strange places, but then force change. Abraham Lincoln described the leading object of our democracy as being to lift artificial weights from all soldiers, from all shoulders, to clear the paths of pursuit for all, to afford an unfettered start and a fair chance in the race of life, to lift artificial weights from all shoulders. I'm sorry, but for New Jersey, Lincoln did not go far enough. These are not just artificial weights on our brothers and sisters. These inequities, the money being stripped from our communities, the punishment of poor people, then people of color, the contamination that has killed my friends and colleagues, the structural injustices we see in this state are choking, squeezing, and suffocating people in about every corner in our state, particularly Black people and people of color, particularly working people. That is why we must organize. That is why we must build power. That is why we must act, because people cannot breathe and strive. We're not politicians, we're not businesses, but we must lead our state forward and force change now. I gladly pass this over to my colleague, Reverend Jessica Lambert.
Thank you so much, Reverend Ashley. My name is Pastor Jessica Lambert. I serve as pastor of St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Jersey City. And I want to thank you, Reverend Ashley, for your wisdom that you bring after decades of organizing and leading. You are a blessing. I remember when we first started organizing as Jersey City Together, you spoke to me about passing the baton to those of us who were new leaders and new to community organizers or community organizing. It was very humbling and very inspiring. I think we stand on great shoulders tonight. We learn from your wisdom. We learn from our own past work, the work of our colleagues in the Industrial Areas Foundation. We learn from the work of our allies here across New Jersey. In Jersey City, what we've learned is that it almost always has been a fight to do the right thing, not just on chromium contamination either. When we launched Jersey City Together in 2016, we cut our teeth as an organization by demanding that our city conduct the first property tax revaluation in 30 years. 30 years. So over the course of over a decade, $40 million a year was being stripped from communities of color and poor communities and being sent to wealthier and whiter communities along the waterfront that was being developed. We brought this up at our first action in front of 900 people, and the long-term impact that this policy could have on homeownership, the terrible wealth disparities in the city, and on working class families. These impacts are incalculable. In 72 hours, we had a commitment from the mayor to take action. We learned again in our work on education. Jersey City schools have been underfunded locally by more than $100 million for years. To take on this challenge, our education leaders have built more and more power over the years. And last year, working with Superintendent Walker and School Board President Richardson, both of whom are here tonight, we increased local funding to Jersey City Public Schools by almost $53 million. This is the largest single local investment ever for Jersey City children. In March, we began raising the importance of universal COVID testing in our prisons. We were told again and again it wasn't possible, or don't worry. When we continued to see inaction and the number of cases in our prisons skyrocketing, we took it to the statewide and national press, and Governor Murphy acted within 48 hours. You know, none of these issues should have taken a fight. And perhaps they wouldn't have if communities of color and our children if their lives mattered as much as those who are white. But they did take a fight. And our sister organizations on this call, we're so grateful you're here tonight. You've seen the same things in your states, building 4,000 Nehemiah homes by East Brooklyn congregations. You'll hear more about this later. It took pressure on every New York City mayor from Ed Koch on. Passing driver's license suspension reform in Virginia took 2 years until it was unanimously passed. And here in New Jersey again, just last Thursday, a health credits bill put forward by our allies with Salvation and Social Justice and NJTogether, also on this call tonight, was delayed again after months of pressure. Why? Because a particular nonprofit was angry that the bill did not contain enough money for them, and a few politicians got cold feet. Welcome to the struggle in New Jersey. So what have we learned? We have learned that we have to have the stomach for the tension and pressure needed to end something so entrenched as racial inequity in New Jersey. This is our moment, and all things are possible if we have hope and if we have the tenacity to keep building. This is what it means to lead change. Whenever I start thinking about the work that New Jersey Together has already done and the work that it is possible to do if we keep building, I think of the words of civil rights leader Ella Baker. We are the leaders we have been looking for. As leaders, we look to work alongside those who hold political power in our state. We've heard from one such leader already tonight, Senator Menendez, and now I'd like to invite another, the state Senate President, Senator Stephen Sweeney, to turn on your camera, as well as Bishop Joshua Rodriguez from City Line Church in Jersey City.
All right. Well, I'm delighted to be here. I'm trying to start my video. Here we go. And here we are. So folks, so excited to be here. So grateful to God for this opportunity. I am Bishop Joshua Rodriguez. I'm the lead pastor and founding pastor of the City Line Church. I have the blessing of being in Jersey City for the last 29 years. And so Senator Sweeney, appreciate you being here. You and I have had the pleasure of working together along with the New Jersey Coalition of Latino Pastors and Ministers in the past, along with Senator Cunningham and Speaker Coughlin and Governor McGreevey, who's on today and who's a champion. But this is your first interaction with us as an organization, New Jersey Together. And although we understand you have to leave early, you've been briefed on our organization's issues and priorities. Now, we know that in organizing and in politics, relationships are important. And that's really what we want to begin today with you as an organization. A real relationship, an accountable relationship, a relationship of respect, where we can push and pull on each other to lead our state forward. Now, we know that we are a diverse state with diverse interests and diverse leaders. But in the priorities that we're going to have, and we will continue to lay out tonight, we believe that we've identified specific areas where there's common ground and where there's potential for significant and meaningful progress. And so there's some slides. There's a slide that was put up earlier with our priorities. We've heard them. I don't want to be redundant and go through all of them, but the disparities are great, suffice it to say. And so you've heard it tonight already. And Senator, we want to know if we can count on you to lead on these issues with us by meeting with our leadership in the coming weeks and discussing this agenda and discussing how we can move these issues and our state forward. Now, our time is limited, Senator, and so you have 3 minutes to respond. Will you meet with us? Will you work with us? And you're on, Senator.
Well, of course I would. I would be happy to meet and discussed a lot of issues that are troubling the state. The things I've heard, we all know are true. Since its inception, our criminal justice system has been marked by racial bias and discrepancies. To this day, Black and brown communities are policed more heavily, stopped more frequently, imprisoned more often, sentenced more severely, and we've seen more likely to be killed in non-threatening situations. We know fixing the problem is not going to happen overnight. But during my time as Senate President with my colleagues, and especially Senator Sandra Cunningham, we did some significant things. We ended cash bail, which I think we all recognize was critically important to keep people out of jail because they were poor. We passed the independent prosecutors bill, first one in the country, so that when there was a shooting, a fatal shooting, that communities can know that an independent prosecutor will review the scene to make sure that people are held accountable. Recently, we just did an expungement bill that, again, Sandy Cunningham led, that was recognized as the most progressive in the nation. There's a lot of things we can do if we want to do, and we all need to draw together to work to make sure that we make the state better than it is. We shouldn't try to act like things are fine because they're not. But I know together with my colleagues, and I know Senator Shirley Turner is working on the exact issue about driver's license fines that we're getting ready to move forward on. And Governor McGreevey and Volunteers of America are doing a great job on recidivism. I believe in second chances, and I want to help young people. Under Senator Poe's leadership, we've made it a lot better for juveniles that get caught up and make mistakes. Because, we've all made mistakes in life. Some of us are lucky we didn't get caught. Some of us did, some of us didn't. So anybody who wants to say we don't is not being honest. But as far as I'm concerned, our job right now is to address honestly the systemic problems that exist in this state and to ensure that we reverse the trend. We're New Jersey. We're a proud state, but this part of the state we're not proud of. People talk about it. They look beyond it. We can't hide anymore the problems that exist in this state. So Bishop, you absolutely have my commitment to sitting and working with you as we have with my colleagues in the Senate and the Assembly, because it doesn't happen unless both houses work together. And I got a great partner in the Speaker of the Assembly, Craig Coughlin, and I'm committed to working to address a lot of these issues because they didn't happen overnight, but they've been here for a long time and it needs to change. So yes, you have my commitment. That's why I'm on this call this evening. And I don't have to have you shut me up. I wrapped it up.
Thank you, Senator. We look forward to working with you in the next several weeks, setting up that virtual meeting and making the state a better place for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bishop and Senator Sweeney. Now we are proud to start diving deeper into the issues. To speak personally about the issue of driver's license suspensions, I introduce Pastor Mona Fitch Elliott.
Can you start my video? I cannot start my video. Good evening. I'm Reverend Mona Fitch Elliott. I'm the pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church in Jersey City. And I appreciate everything that has been presented so far tonight, because we can start to see how injustice can be systemic and be in the midst of our institutions and our legislation. So our first issue tonight that we were going to be discussing with regard to legislation is driver's license suspensions here in Jersey City. I want to begin by showing a brief video that will help you understand how this impacts people, and then we can turn to our next steps. Maybe you may recognize somebody in this video. This is Reverend Mona Fitch Elliott, and I'm a pastor at St. John's Lutheran Church in Jersey City.
I'm from the Middlesex County area. Right now, I reside in Mercer
My name is
County,
Jill Josephson, and I'm a leader with Jersey City Together.
My name is Frank Educational Gilmore, and today I will be giving you a brief story of how licenses have pretty much derailed my life.
There was a time not too long ago when I was considered a criminal in the state of New Jersey because my license was suspended.
Me being 19 years old and not taking the municipal court system seriously and not knowing any better, I missed the court date. And by me missing the court date, it suspended my license. So from there, that sent me through years of license suspension, license restoration, paying $100 every time, a whole bunch of fines, tickets, warrants, jail time, all over one ticket from double parking and me missing a court date.
A few years ago, I had my license suspended. It happened when I happened to be on leave, and I was living in Minnesota with my son, who was then in first grade. And unbeknownst to me, there were some parking tickets on my car back in New Jersey that had not been paid.
So I come home, I'm in a halfway house, I'm working, trying to reintegrate back into society, trying to make amends. I'm going to Rutgers University, I'm a full-time student, full-time employed, and on my way back from Rutgers, driving after a long night of midterm exams, driving back with one of my classmates, and I was pulled over by a state trooper, and to my surprise, I had a warrant out of Palisades Park for not paying municipal tickets. So I was sent back to state prison for a whole nother year. And I came home and I had surcharges on top of surcharges and suspensions on top of suspensions for this one simple infraction that transpired, in which I received a state prison term for.
I can remember an example. One time I was with my daughter. We came from the grocery store. I was actually driving home in East Brunswick, and I was pulled over by an officer. And we had groceries in the car. And the officer actually took my car, and he made me and my 6-year-old daughter walk with the groceries. And that was really the process, and the embarrassment of that actually made me start the process of actually going to get my driver's license. But it's a journey, especially when you coming from so far behind and you're $30,000 in debt just for the process or the things that you've done in your younger years, and the amount of money that accumulates over the time that you actually have to pay before you actually get your driver's license.
All of those times when I was without my license, sometimes I felt very alone. I felt like, I was alone out there on the bus platform, in the bus station. I was alone, waiting for trains and things like that late at night or early in the morning. I was never alone. There are 300,000 people who have suspended driver's license for failure to pay or failure to appear.
It's just a big mess that, that the people are struggling with.
New Jersey needs to change this law. This is unfair.
There have been places and states that have changed these laws. And this year, new legislation needs to be put forth in New Jersey to follow in these states' footsteps and stop the suspension of driver's license for failure to pay and failure to appear. Thank you for taking the time to see that. I'm particularly inspired to see so many allies this time explaining how this might impact people. Over the last month, we have been speaking to our state legislators about the importance of this legislation, and they have been working to put forth a bill. We had 3 of them tonight that were ready to announce and have submitted the bill to be drafted. Unfortunately, Senator Sandra Cunningham had to leave, but we still have present with us tonight Senator Shirley Turner and Assemblyman oh, now I had that right all day long, Shavaralati. So we asked them to draft, they're drafting the bill. And we've also worked with Americans for Prosperity in New Jersey, and they're ready and willing to work with us on this bill to make sure that it is bipartisan. So we're going to invite our honored guest tonight to share for 2 minutes why this legislation is important to them and to explain and proclaim their commitment to work with us. So first, I'm going to invite Senator Shirley Turner, who has been speaking with our organization and working hard on this. Can you tell us, Senator Turner, what is compelling you to see this as important legislation, and what is your commitment going forward?
I have full commitment to changing this system because it is certainly part of systemic racism in this state. I've been working on this bill. I've had a number of bills which would stop the poor and working class people from losing their licenses because of their inability to pay all of the assessed fines, penalties, and surcharges that are heaped on them. And these are people who are struggling, trying to make a living for themselves and their families, living from paycheck to paycheck. And the harder they work, the further behind they become, until invariably they lose their licenses, which means they lose their jobs. If you don't have a license in New Jersey, you can't find a job, because the first thing an employer will ask during an interview, do you have a valid New Jersey driver's license? And if you say no, then they just toss your application into the circular file, because that is one way for them to discriminate against you because you don't have a driver's license. I have seen it happen time and time again with my constituents in Mercer County. And I've heard from constituents in other counties as well who have lost their licenses, and for the most part, they have lost hope, because many of them have, some people have $20, $21, and $22,000 in fines, penalties, and surcharges that they will never be able to pay off. And we've got to do something to change that, because now more than ever before, poor and middle-class people need jobs, because they're the ones who have lost so much during this pandemic, and the unemployment rate continues to skyrocket.
We appreciate your remarks and appreciate your support, and we are going to hold you to your commitment. Thank you so much. We would like to also give Assemblyman Shavaralati a chance to explain why he is committed to this legislation and what his commitment is.
Well, thank you, Reverend Fitch Elliott. Appreciate that introduction and the opportunity. I also appreciate the invitation to this action and everything that New Jersey Together is doing, and your advocacy in the state. You know, this is an important issue because it impacts so many, and it impacts those who can afford it the least. You know, my priorities are impacted by my life's experiences, and I'm the son of Italian immigrants. My life has been molded by my Roman Catholic faith. And in the assembly, when you see injustice, you need to stand up and take it on. This seems to be like it should be a simple. The reality is that in New Jersey today and across this country, you can literally go from having a $14 parking ticket to thousands of dollars in fines and ultimately a bench warrant for your arrest. What this is a modern day debtor's prison. And we need to join together to eliminate it. What I will say is I'm fortunate to work with Senator Turner and my colleague in the 31st, Senator Cunningham, who have been leaders, and learning from them and working with them on this. I think there are other issues we need to address when it comes to the driver's licenses, including the surcharge and the fact that we need to take a look at eliminating and forgiving some of these debts and reinstating the licenses across the board. I think this is something that is in the best interest, especially in the context of the current pandemic, to make sure that we can get people on the road safely and legally. And Reverend, I know I only have a few minutes, but you guys are touching on so many issues. I just want to state for the record, I am an ally and a partner. And when it comes to education funding, in particular in Jersey City, community I represent, please call on me. It's an issue we work on every day. And when we talk about home ownership, I think the two biggest issues to close the inequality gap is education and home ownership. Home ownership.
Well, thank you so much.
There you
Thank
go,
you so
Reverend.
much, Assemblyman. We really appreciate your support, and because we need allies. Now, to all three, including Senator Sandra Cunningham, who I know is a supporter of this, we would like to thank you all, and we appreciate your commitment and your readiness. We're ready, and now we know that you're ready to prioritize this. Will you prioritize this? You will be prioritizing this? Let's answer. Oh, he left me.
No, I didn't leave you. I'm sorry. I'm just having a little connective issues. It's an absolute priority. In fact, and I know we only have 30 seconds, but, Assemblyman Wimberly and Assemblyman Sumner, who are well-known with this group, we passed one of their pieces of legislation last week, and hopefully Senator Turner's companion piece will pass the Senate in September.
Thank you so much. And we thank everyone who's watching. Be ready, because if we're going to see this through, we're going to need everybody's help and everybody's support. So be ready to meet our call of action. I'm going to pass it over now to Reverend Dr. Sidney Williams.
Good evening. Thank you, Reverend Mona. The stories you gathered were so powerful, and I really believe our voices make the difference. Our stories make the difference. I want to share some good news. New Jersey Together and Morris Together here in Morris County, along with Black Lives Matter Morristown, Black Lives Matter Morristown, and Wind of the Spirit, we're winning. Our prosecutor here in Morris County has announced his resignation. He said that it was not because of New Jersey Together, but if you got to say it, maybe it is. Well, we're glad he's leaving. And now we need your help. We need to put pressure to make sure that we get the right kind of prosecutor for Morris County. You may not think it's your issue, it's just a Morris County issue, but what you need to know is that most of the people that get arrested and incarcerated in Morris County live in Essex County and Passaic County, and they come here to work and they find themselves arrested. And if you are Black or brown, you have a 22% more chance, 22 times more of a chance to being sent to state prison for petty crimes. And it could be because you have a suspended driver's license. And so we need your support. We need our elected officials in Morris County to step up and speak up and demand that we get a prosecutor who is focused more on seeking justice than convictions and sending people to prison with maximum sentences. We need a prosecutor who's able to see the big picture and mitigating factors. For example, if you have a DWI case, maybe the end goal to be to ensure that the defendant gets treatment. Secondly, we need a good listener. When Prosecutor Knapp came to Morris County, he told the clergy that he didn't need to be in communication with us. He dismantled the community engagement efforts that have been put in place by his predecessor. And only after Governor Murphy was elected did he make an effort to try to tell us what he was doing. But we don't want people to tell us what they're doing. We want people that will listen to what's happening in our community, that will be good listeners. Finally, we want a prosecutor who tempers zeal with human kindness, seeks truth and not victims, serves the law and not factional purposes, and approaches their task with humility. This is what we're after. We need your support. I won't go into more details because the hour is late, but I can tell you that there are at least 2 people being considered. I understand one of them could become an interim who's more of the same, and the other could be the first woman prosecutor in Morris County. We like to see a woman in that position with compassion, who loves justice and walks humbly with her God. And so I pray that you would work hard with us to make sure we get a prosecutor in Morris County that makes sense and cares about people and people's lives. And so with that, I want to hand it over to Uche Akpa, who will take us in to another issue pertaining to housing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Uche Akpa from Fountain of Salvation Church in Jersey City. The last major issue we'll raise tonight is the wealth gap in home ownership. As Reverend Ashley shared, New Jersey has one of the worst wealth gaps in the country, with white wealth at 50 times that of Black and Latino wealth. We are pressing the state to create a new kind of subsidy modeled after the Nehemiah Home Ownership Initiative created by our sister organizations in other states. It's one that would help people without family wealth, particularly families of color, buy a home. This would go straight at our state's inequities in a big way. And we're going to ask the state to invest $250 million over the next few years in it. This would help at least 5,000 New Jersey families without wealth become first-time home buyers. Let me be very clear. This kind of investment is incredibly reasonable because it's not theoretical. Our sister organizations on this call have done it before. They've built wealth and changed the trajectory of families for generations in places like East Brooklyn, South Bronx, Baltimore, and DC. And they've been doing it since 1983. Let that stick in your head. These other states have been doing this kind of work since 1983, working with organizations just like ours. New Jersey is once again decades behind on a proven model to create wealth for Black and Latinos family. It's another reason why the wealth gap in our state is so huge. I don't have to look any further than the city I live in to see this kind of wealth disparity. While Jersey City has become one of the hottest regions in the New York City metropolitan area, the historically Black neighborhoods of Greenville and Bergen-Lafayette are largely ignored. Recently, as developers have run out of space, now they are developing in these areas. However, the new houses and developments being built there are not marketed to the people that have been there for years, but in favor of people moving from other areas. The people of Greenville and Bergen-Lafayette find themselves being pushed out and many times being pressured to sell their homes. They waited for years and weathered a city that ignored their needs and did not show any interest in investing in the people that had been there for generations. Currently, those that want to buy find themselves priced out and are unable to compete in this market. Once again, they are being robbed of one of the top wealth creation vehicles in the country, home ownership. We are seeing the same thing play out in Morristown, Newark, New Brunswick, and throughout New Jersey. Something drastic, ambitious, and immediate must be done if we are to prevent this same story from playing out over and over in New Jersey. We have a proven model that works in Nehemiah Homes. We mentioned this in July, but everyone here, including and perhaps more importantly, the elected officials, are invited for a briefing with leaders from New York and Baltimore about Nehemiah and how it has functioned in both East New York and Baltimore this fall. We'll do it via Zoom. You'll be asked to sign up as part of Reverend Perry's final poll. So with that, I'll pass it off to Bishop Rodriguez and Reverend Perry.
All right. Well, thank you, Uche, for that amazing data and information. And so, folks, we've heard a lot tonight, and I don't want to again be redundant because we're on the clock and we want to maximize every single minute that we have left, and we want to end on time. And so we've heard about prison disparities, wealth disparities, segregation, the highest COVID-19 deaths for people in prison in the country, chromium contamination and its adverse effects. And on the screen, you'll see the ratified priorities. Jersey City Public Schools underfunded locally by more than $100 million for years. The need for driver's license suspension reform. And lastly, Uche's amazing presentation there on home ownership disparities. And so we can't do this alone. We need relationships. And so we're grateful for all the relationships that we have built and we're building today during this call. And so I pass it on to my colleague, Reverend Perry.
All right, thank you, Bishop. We're so grateful to have the speakers that we have on tonight who have really done a wonderful job of putting forward some of the issues that face our state. But I don't want to leave before talking about an issue that's in progress right now in Hudson County, and that's around youth incarceration. On last week, we were on a call with the director of the county jail, and we have a commitment with him to talk about how we can make our system, our jail system better. And we're also going to be having discussions with Hudson County Executive Tom DeGeese. And we'll be talking about making the Hudson County Jail a model for not just New Jersey, but for our nation as we go forward. So we have a long way to go, but we hope to report back to everybody at our next gathering and about more that's happening and more that's about to come. So Bishop Rodriguez.
Thank you, my brother. Pastor Perry. And so as shared at the beginning of the call, ladies and gentlemen, my brothers and sisters, we have on this call tonight, 3 of the 5 most important political leaders in the state of New Jersey. We've heard from United States Senator Menendez. We've heard from the Senate President Sweeney. And now we're about to hear from one more of those leaders in the Assembly, or Assembly Speaker Coughlin. And so I'd like to ask Speaker Coughlin, please, to come on camera and unmute yourself. Fantastic. There you are. And so Speaker Coughlin, we appreciate you being here tonight. And we want to acknowledge your leadership on criminal justice and criminal justice reform as well. I mean, we've connected before on other issues with, again, the New Jersey Coalition of Latino Pastors and Ministers. However, this is your first interaction with this particular organization, New Jersey Together. Now, I want to repeat that we know in organizing and in political, in the political sphere, that relationships are important. And that's really what we want to begin today with you. Our partnership between New Jersey Together and yourself as the speaker. We want a relationship, an accountable relationship, a relationship of respect that we can push and pull on each other to lead our state forward. Now, we know that we're a diverse state with diverse interests, diverse leaders, but in everything that we've laid out tonight, Speaker, we believe we've identified specific areas where there's common ground and where there's potential for significant and meaningful progress. And so you've seen some of the priorities on the screen. We want to know, first of all, we can count on you to lead on these issues with us. If you're willing to meet with us in our leadership team in the coming weeks, so we can discuss this agenda and talk about how we can move these issues and our state forward. And so, Speaker, we're going to give you 3 minutes to share with us. We know it's not a lot of time, but again, can we count on you? Will you meet with us in weeks to come and work on these issues? Speaker, it's all yours.
Thank you, Bishop, and I'll talk real fast. You guys run a tight ship. I saw a couple of my friends get to say, "Okay, time's up," and I admire that. But yes, of course, I'll be happy to meet with you. In fact, Bishop, you know, I have met before, and look, I'm really proud of the work that we have done in the Assembly over these last couple of months. I was on the phone call today with my friend Shavonda Sumter, who pointed out that we had passed 26 bills already in the Assembly that dealt with social justice and police reform. I'm proud of the work that we have done. I think we've taken a real leadership role in that because it was necessary and because it was the right thing to do. And I'm so happy to talk about that. I wasn't able to be on for the entirety of the call, but I did hear many of the issues that we've talked about and had a chance to look at the agenda as we've gone through. I think one of the things that I heard that really struck a chord with me was the work that you want to do in connection with driver's license suspensions. In New Jersey, we all recognize that losing your right to drive is like losing your job and so many other aspects of your life. And I have that from experience. You know, as my colleague Nicholas Chevroletti pointed out, based on your life experiences. I had the privilege of being a prosecutor in Woodbridge Municipal Court and Edison Municipal Court for about 15 years, and a municipal court judge for 4. I've seen the kind of impact things like I hate it. I truly did hate it. The suspensions based on parking tickets, and Assemblyman Wembersley's leadership led us to pass that bill to change that. Because that's like you're being on double secret probation. Nobody even tells you that oftentimes, and you're driving along. You think you're in fine shape, and then you're done. You fall down the hole, as Senator Turner pointed out, and with the surcharges and things like that get added on. You can never get out of that, and it adversely affects people's lives in so many ways. I heard we talked about the need to close the wealth gap. And I think we do that in the topic of home ownership, which is really the first and foremost, because I know lots of people who don't have a wealth of saving but own a home, and that gives them the opportunity, and it's often generational wealth that we need to work to change. And so making changes and things like that will make the difference, will change things systemically, which is what we have the opportunity to do right now. And I think the commitment that we need to make as we move forward. And so I thank you for letting me be on the call. I appreciate your letting me have the time to talk to you. And I look forward to working with you as we move forward to try to change things for the better.
Thank you so much, Speaker.
Did I get it in under 3 minutes?
So you did good. You did good. We want to thank you.
Will you meet with our team in the coming weeks?
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm happy to meet.
We want to make sure he's going to meet with us.
Sure.
Fantastic. All right.
Absolutely, Bishop. I'm happy to meet with you.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Speaker. Okay. We've heard a lot, and as was noted earlier, there are a lot of issues that we are addressing, and I've been looking through the chat, and we want to let you know that there is room for us to grow and to take on some more issues. But we asked tonight specifically that the leadership of our state would be here, and we had 3 of the top 5 leaders, elected officials in our state on this call. And we asked them to lead us, but that's not the real crucial question. The real crucial and critical question that we have to answer tonight is, will everyone on this call, specifically, will all of you lead with us? Because we're not going to win on these issues and the others without first building power. Okay? We're going to put up the map from the beginning of the action, where all the people on this call are based. Okay? And if we're going to move these issues forward, we need to go to work now. We need to grow the number of congregations and organizations. We need to grow the number of broad-based chapters doing strong work locally, just like they're doing in Jersey City Together and Morris area together. I know there's already some interest expressed in Essex County, Monmouth County, Bergen County, and Middlesex County. We need more leaders who've been through training and who are ready and willing to meet with their elected officials to dig into the disparities in their own communities. We need teams digging deeper into the disparities in Morris County and elsewhere in the home ownership and the Nehemiah project with Uche. So I'm going to put up a poll. And we're going to give you some time, because I know after sitting through all of this, you're kind of saying, what do they want me to do? What can I do? Okay. And so we're going to put up this poll, and we're going to give you some time, and we're going to ask you to commit to do something. Okay. Here it is. What one or more actions are you willing to take to help us move New Jersey and New Jersey Together forward and build power for the future? Now, you can check every box or you can be selective. It's up to you, okay? And just go down the list, and when you check on the box, we will reach back out to you. We will contact you. We will let you know when we're going to meet, and we're going to, if you want to bring this sort of action to your community, to your town, to your county, you can just check it off right now. So by you checking off the boxes, we will know what areas you are most interested in. So I'm going to stop talking for a minute, and I'm going to let you read through the questions and check off where you may have interest. Because at the end of the day, it's not just about hearing the commitments of these politicians. It's not about what they are just willing to do. It's what we are willing to do. That's what makes all of this possible. So when you check our box, we'll follow up. So as we begin to close this meeting, and we're building this movement, we're building it statewide, and we will make good on these issues. We have no intention on issuing another bad check. We want to make good on these promissory notes. We want to make good on the issues that we brought forward, but we need your help. And as we get ready to close, I am going to turn everything over to Rabbi Elliot Tepperman and Bishop Stokes, who will close us in prayer.
Good evening. It is my honor and my privilege to be reading and leading this prayer with Bishop Stokes. Rabbi Simcha Bonham taught that we need to act like everything depends on us and pray like everything depends on God. Right now we're at the prayer part of this action. I invite you to take a moment, take a deep breath, put on your prayer hat, feel and remember that you have a soul. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Holy One of Blessing. We pray tonight that we have the patience to persist, that we have the patience to keep acting, to keep demanding justice, even when the road is long. Help us, Holy One, to keep standing with each other and to feel your presence as we build powerful, multi-faith, multiracial solidarity. Give us the patience to keep acting for as long as it takes to realize your beloved community. Holy One of Blessing, the Senator John Lewis taught that we have to believe that the world we are struggling to create is already here and that it is our job to find the way there. God, please help us to believe this message, and please help us to find the way now.
Thank you, Rabbi. In the Episcopal Church, our baptismal covenant demands that we seek the divine image in all people, strive for justice and peace among all people, and respect the dignity of every human being. And it's about the common good. And this is about the common good, all of the issues we addressed tonight, and about the inequities and righting them. And so let us pray. Almighty and most merciful God, we remember before you all poor and neglected persons whom it would be easy for us to forget, the homeless, the hungry, and the destitute. Look with pity, O Heavenly Father, upon the people in this land who live with injustice, racism, terror, disease, and death as their constant companions. Have mercy upon us. Help us to eliminate our cruelty to these, our neighbors. Strengthen those who spend their lives establishing equal protection of the law and equal opportunities for all. And grant that every one of us may enjoy a fair portion of the riches of this land. And we pray this in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Video.